All right, let's see if we can get ourselves centered here. Not bad. Not bad at all. Get ready to go live. How's everybody doing? No, I'm talking to them. You're free. Here we go, live. Okay, I'm my only viewer so far, so not a lot to worry about over here.
In that case, I can tell you I'm on my last hand.
Okay. Whoa, that just... We're live now? All right, well, there we go. Stuff's starting to happen. Where we go. All right. It's funny how long a 7-second delay can feel when you're trying to adjust something. Ah, there we go. I'm my only viewer again. There we go. Okay. Oh, I guess it's only 5 of. It's not too bad.
My mom said she was like viewing one of your videos the other day. I was like, Mom, you know she can see that. She was like, oh. She's like, it just popped up. I was scrolling through Facebook. I was like,
Oh, that's cool. That's all right. I usually say hi to people when I see them pop up. That's funny. All right. We're getting ready for our, this is our plate. Woo. I put my, that's not going to be good. I'm going to try not to hit that. I probably should have turned it around. Oh, well. Next time. This is the plate with the matching. Let's see what happens if I put this up here. Woo! With the mug, you have your choice. Some of you are painting the mug. Some of you are painting the plate. Some of you are just here for fun, or you don't know how to get out of it. Nonetheless, we'll have fun regardless. So, how's everybody doing? All right. Comments are on. How can April be watching? She just left. April, you better not be watching this in the car. That's funny.
maybe she wasn't driving.
Okay, I'm gonna hope. I'm gonna go with that she wasn't driving.
Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, so we're just gonna wait a few minutes to get started. You should have your plate. I just have the one that we're doing up here, but you should have your plate ready to go. You've got your tool. Your glazes are open. You have your paper towel slightly damp. Yeah, that's all the important stuff. There's not too much else we need. All right. So, all right, so give us about another minute or so and we'll get started. So if you're doing the mug, you may want to, I did put the starter place for the design, but you know, because of where the handle is, you feel free to put a shim of some sort underneath it so that the center dot is facing straight up for you. Okay. Yeah, that looks so. You might, you know, this you kind of want it straight up and down, at least to start with. Later on, we'll move it around a little bit more. But if you're doing the mug, you want to kind of position it so it doesn't roll. That obviously seems important. I'm going to show you this on the plate because it's flat. So, all right. We will get ourselves started. Welcome, everyone. Oh no. There we go. Comments are off, comments are on. All right. So you have your dotting tool, and which looks like this. And you will notice if you turn it to the side that has the writing on it versus the side that is hollowed out, you'll notice that there's a number on each of the tips, 1 through 8. 8 is the biggest one, 1 is the smallest one. So I will refer to them by their numbers. Or I can take this off of here because we don't need that anymore. I went ahead, I marked my plate deeply in color so that it would show up better for you so you can see it on the camera, just so you know. So one of the things to keep in mind is of the 6 colors that you have, one of the interesting things about glazes is that they're not all the same. Obviously, they're different colors, but my point is they all have a different viscosity or kind of a thickness, so they don't dot the same way. So if you have a little piece of scrap paper or something, you can pick one of the points on the tool that I just showed you. I usually use 0.3 or 0.4 for testing it, and just dip. And when I say dip, I mean dip. You know, don't just go somewhere near the paint, okay? But really get it into the paint. You don't have to shove it all the way to the bottom, but get your tip in there good and just dot. Dip and dot. And even do it a few times with the same color so you can see how you're getting the same size dot. That's kind of an important thing to learn. So you can do that, and I'm using the number 4 tip, and you can do that with each of the different colors so you can sort of get a sense of how they dot. So here's the darker green is less thick or viscous. So it's gonna, if I want to do a dot that's the same size as the other one, then I'm just going to have a slightly lighter touch. Here's the thing about applying glaze and stuff. You can always add more. You can't add less. I know, it's deep and profound. So don't worry about it if you don't get enough. I worry about it more if you get too much. So go ahead and, you know, do a little dip with each of the different colors. Use your paper towel to clean off your tip in between. All right, and you'll get a feel for it. One of the techniques that we're going to do on this one is called I named them, so you can be sure it's quite brilliant. It's called the dot, dot, dot. And if I'm going to just start with the number 5 tip so you can see it, and I'm going to do it with the blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 1 dot, and then I'm going to make successive dots. So dot, dot, dot. And when you do that, you can see that the dots automatically get smaller as you go. So we're going to do that when we make some teardrops and bridges across things. We're going to use that technique. So those are the 2 main things that you want to know, is how to make a good solid dot, how to make a consistent dot, and then how to do this dot, dot, dot. The other thing we'll do at some point is what's called double dotting. So if I use this big green dot that I made, and I'll give you the numbers for every step, but I'm going to take tip 2, because it's a small tip, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glaze right in the middle of it. And that's how we're going to do some double dotting. You can do it when the paint is wet, or you can do it when it's dry. So it looks a little bit different depending on when you do it, but not the biggest of deals. So if there's not any questions, I'm going to go and get us started. All right. So what I'll ask you to do is, if you're ready to move on to the next step, just give me a good thumbs up, and then I'll know. And I'll ask you for it, so don't worry about it. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do is start with our center dot. And that one's going to be the tip number 8. And we're going to use the white, okay?
Thank you for
and just make a nice big dot in the middle. Now I'm working on a white plate, so, all right. And that's how we get started and get our,
Hey Emma, picking up a to-go order tomorrow, can they add to it?
all right. So if you're done with that, what we're gonna do next is we're going to use the blue, and we're gonna use the number 2 tip. Okay, so the number 2, which is the second from the smallest, and we're going to use the blue, and we're just going to put, when we do this, we're just going to put a small dot right on the end of that mark. Oh, that's really small. That's smaller than I want it to be. If yours is making a tiny dot like that, move up to the number 3. I don't know why mine is really small. It'll happen sometimes. There we go. This is the size I wanted it. I want it to be visible from space here. All right, so not necessarily in the middle, but just on the end edge closest to the center dot you just made. All right, so hopefully you can see that on mine pretty clearly. Let me see. I have the advantage of this being on a turntable, but even so, it can be hard to see once I put my hand in there. All right. Okay. Now the next technique that we're going to apply is, I don't know, I really always forget I need to look this word up, but we're going to make a triangle. So I, of course, call it triangulating. But we're going to use the number 4 tip, and we're still going to stick with that same blue color. All right, and we're going to put a dot little bit out, but between 2 of these other dots. So I'm gonna see what that looks like when I do it, so I can make sure you guys can see it. So on that side is not the best side. It's better, I think, if I do it on this side, so you can see that better. Okay. I just hung out there for you so you could hardly, I'm in your way. All right, nope, it doesn't make a difference. My hand's in the way no matter what. So you can see it when I take my hand away. And remember, if you're not sure, better to just barely touch and pull it away, and then you can always add more if you need to. But if you make it too big, you can't really make it smaller. The other thing I'll tell you is if you make a mistake and maybe, you have 2 dots that kiss or run together, it's best to clean that up at the end rather than while you're doing it. Wet glaze is very hard to clean up, whereas once it's dry, it's super easy. And I will show you that at the end. Whoops, it looks like I missed, oh no, I'm still doing it on there. My God, so funny. All right, so we've made these triangles. Is everybody following that? Making sense to you? Okay. Cool. All right, now we're going to switch back to the white/light blue color. I think it's white. Isn't that funny that things that you don't actually remember? It's kind of weird. And we're going to do the triangle again, okay, in between these colors. And we're going to use the tip number 6, okay? So I'm going to do, again with that, and I'm going to put a dot right there. Now, I just want to make sure that the dot comes off. There we go. Nice and large. All right, so a little triangle dot in between. Okay. That's with tip number 6. Maybe is that oh no, you can see it. I was worried that that might be a little hard to see on the white plate, but you can see it fine. That's cool. All right, and I'll wait for everybody to kind of finish up with that step. Don't rush. Give me a little thumbs up so I know when you're done. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to add a dot right above that. Let's see what we got there. Yep. We're going to go back to the dark blue, and we're going to go to the number 5 tip, and we're just going to put another dot right above. Okay, it'll be very similar. Just a smidge, great word, smidge. Smidge smaller. Ooh, I even especially like it because it alliterates. Just a smidge smaller. Okay.
So she just wanted to add something, which is fine. She was very excited. Very important for that. I said this song because I'm in the family before we go for this song.
Oops.
Yeah. And she just asked like what she would do. So I like asked her usually, and she said it was like.
All right, now we're going to switch over to the green color. And on the black plate, I actually like to use the lighter green first. So we're going to use, again, the number 5 tip with the lighter of the 2 greens. And put a dot right above. Now, when you put the dot above, actually, we're going to go up a size. I'm changing my mind. I want to do this, the number 6 dot. But leave a little bit more space when you go up, because we're going to be putting some dots all around this. So I don't know if you can see. Take a second and look, and you can see I left some air between. Where's my little pointer? I left more space between these 2 dots than I did between the first 2. Okay. All right. So leaving a little air. If you don't leave enough air on one of them, I'm going to show you how to handle that. It's not really the big deal. What you don't want to do, in my experience, is you don't want to try to force your little dots in between, because it won't work. It won't be pretty. It'll make you crazy. So we're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the number 1, which is the smallest tip, and we're going to go back to that first color, the whitish color, and we're going to start on the outside. And this is, remember before I showed you the dot, dot, dot? So we're going to put a dot on the outside. That's like our biggest dot, if you will. And then you're going to go around 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that one didn't even show it was so tiny, but that's not a big deal. We'll catch it on the other side. And then when we come around this side, I only did 3 on 1, 2, 3, and let's see if I have enough to grab the bottom. I do. So let me show that again, starting at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we only need 3 on the second side because we already have the top and the bottom. So 1, 2, 3. All right, anybody have any questions on that? We're using tip number 1. What color and tip? So Kathleen, if you're talking about this step, I'm using tip 1, and we're using that first color, the light blue. But it looks like it's white, so I'm going to call it white because I don't want to confuse you. So we're going to, doing the little dots around, and I'm going to check your comments to make sure I'm answering the question you're asking. So tip number 1, start at the top, and then come 1, 2, 3, 4. Dip again, 1, 2, 3. So start at the top, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Dip again, 1, 2, 3. Top, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 more. And now on the other side, we only need 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna think you guys have that by now, and we'll stop counting out loud. But if you need me, I'm just a disembodied voice away. All right, so we're just gonna do that. Take your time on these. You get some nice sharp. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, when you're dotting, especially if you're doing something like this, you always want to dot on your best side. So I'm left-handed, so I always dot on the left. So you can see I have a turntable, but one of the reasons, what you can do is use a piece of paper that you put it on, or if I gave you a placemat or something like that, to turn your plate, or even if you need, or your mug, turn it around so that you're always dotting from your best side. So I don't try to whip around and dot over here on the right, because I'm going to hook my hand and it's just not going to work out well. So what I'm going to do is I turn the plate so that I'm always dotting on my preferred side. All right, so I'm gonna wait and make sure everybody's got that done, because I don't want you to rush through it. So let me know when you've got your little dots done. There's no hurry. All right, let me see where you're at. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is add what I call a crown to the top of that. We're going to do that with the same color, with that light green again. And I'm gonna do that with the number 2 tip. So we're gonna go up one size on the tip. So the number 2 tip and the light green. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm not going to put the teardrops all the way around. I'm gonna put the one at the top as always. And then I'm just going to put 2 on each side. Okay. One of the things I want you to notice is if you feel like you're not getting enough paint on there, just hold your tip onto your plate for a second and let more paint run off. It's kind of easy problem to fix. And these, you want them to be significantly bigger looking than the ones you just did. So I'm using the number 2 tip, but sometimes if I'm not sure it's giving me enough paint, I'm just going to hold it down for a second and let it drip off. Okay, is that making sense? All right, let me see if anybody had any questions. Nope, no questions on that one. So I'm going to take it all the way around. 1, 2. 1, 2. I know, I get it. I'll be quiet. I can't be quiet. It's too quiet. 1, 2. You know, it's kind of funny because sometimes it's different how I build the design versus how I, teach it, because I want to make sure that you have enough room to do some of your steps. So I want to, this way you know what kind of room you have to work with. That'll make more sense in a second. So I will wait for you to give me a thumbs up and let me know when you've got your crown. All right. Anybody else? I don't want to go too fast, so if I'm going too quick, just put in the comments. Too quick, slow down, something like that. Something that'll make it nice and easy for you. Something I can catch. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the space in between while our dots dry up a little bit. And we're going to use the number 7 tip. Okay, we're venturing pretty far up there. And I'm going to use the darker blue. This will be, I think, our last bit with the blue. And I'm going to put a dot above the other dark blue and kind of in the middle of the other two blues. So let me put it on there and then point to it. So what I'm doing is it's right above this one, but it's also between, you know, in the space, equal with the space between these two and these two. All right? So I'm going to do it again so you can see. So it's above here, and then parallel with these two, with the space in between these two. So let's do that again. That's where that's going to go. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way around. Above the blue and then in between. All right. And this is with tip number 7, in case you missed that. Okay. All right. So we'll let that set for a second. Now, one of the things we can do is, your center dot is probably pretty dry now. So we're going to go back and we're going to use tip number 5, and we're going to double dot that. So we're going to take that dark blue and we're going to put a second dot on top. It's okay if it almost obliterates the bottom dot, because we're actually going to add a third dot because we know how to have fun. I'm just taking some color off because I don't want it to mound too much. I don't want a lot of paint on there. Sometimes when it domes too much, it gives us trouble in the kiln later. So it should, when it fires, it'll just have that rim of the lighter blue around it. So we've got that double dot in the middle, and it's not too highly domed. And that's kind of what we wanted it to do. All right, how are we doing with that? Well, thank you. I'm glad you're liking it. All right, so now we're going to start with our purples. You'll notice that there's one color that's lighter than the other. So we're going to start with the lighter one. I know this is the week that I started switching over to these little paint pods. They're a lot easier to dip this new tool, the new green tool, into than those big 2-ounce cups. But I don't know that I marked everybody's, so I kind of apologize for that. If I did mark it, 12 is the lighter color. But what we're going to do then is we're going to use the number 8, so the biggest one, and we're going to put a dot up between the two ends of the bridges. Okay, so where those green dots, those tiny green dots are. At the end of the day, it doesn't really so much matter which of the purples, you know, is on the bottom, on the top, or the top. We are going to double dot just about all the purples. You just want to be consistent in terms of where you're dipping. So we're just going to put a dot in between both of those. All right, beautiful. I like how the purples look with the greens. I like how symmetrical this one is, which is funny because well, most of them are symmetrical, but this one's really flowery looking. Now, one of the things about doing these is I'm giving you a design and I'm, you know, kind of like telling you how I do it. But I do want you to, as you're starting to get comfortable with it, really start thinking about how you can make a design your own. And you'll have that opportunity because we're going to, you know, we're almost finished with the basic design. And if you're like, ooh, I wish I could do more, you can. You have the whole rim of this plate to do what you want. So you could take one element of this, like let's just say you like this part, which is the green with the light blue around it and the green behind it. You can take those and repeat them And let's say you could repeat them, but we're not done with the purple area, but when we are, you could repeat that up here above all the purples, and it would look really pretty. In fact, I might do that just for fun, because I can, and I've just mentioned it. So anyway, we have this purple dot hanging out there, being pretty. The last step, so the last thing we did was we used the largest tip, tip 8, and the lightest purple, and we made the big dot in between the smallest two greens. Kate, is that what you're asking? Is that the last step that you mean? Or the step before then? Which I think was blue dots. Okay. So, let's see if you guys are all caught up. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use the darker purple, the other purple, and we're going to do another dot the same size, so the number 8 tip right above. But don't do too close. There's no reason. You have plenty of room. So put another one right above there. I know it's really hard sometimes to use the purples, and it's true with the purples and the pinks actually. Before they're fired, they look so much the same, it can be really hard to keep track of. Like I have this one design that I do that's all purple and pink, and it's literally enough to make you drink. It's like, I always double dot that one as I go so I don't forget what color I was working with, because you can't tell by looking at it. And these are just so similar. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to use the same color, so this darker one, the one we just did, and the reason I'm moving ahead, even though you might not be done, is because I want you to know you're going to be using the same color. We're going to go back with tip 3 and just put a dot right in the middle of the one underneath that was almost dry. So not the one you just did. And right now, it looks like you're dotting with the same color, but I promise you, you're not. Okay, so just put a little dot right in the middle of that one with that darker purple. Oops. Let's see if I can come back into the middle. I'm traveling here. Oh, I bet I hit the chair. My new setup for the camera. It's better because it's closer, but it's not quite as stable. I think I'm gonna have to get used to it. You're fine, don't worry about it. You are making a lot of noise, but you're breaking up boxes, and I'll never, ever complain. All right, so we have that second one up there. Now what we're gonna do is we're going to go back to the lighter purple, and I think we're going to start with tip number 4. Yeah, that's the one I want to use. And we're going to do a dot, 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 but only on one side of that dot, of the big dot. So here's what I mean. You're going to go up to this side, and you're going to go dot, 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 dot. And then that's it. And you're going to move on to the next one. We're not going to go down both sides. We're just going to go up to the top and go dot, 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 dot. It comes down kind of to, where's my little pointer? It comes down more toward the last green versus going in too much, you know, versus going around the purple, big purple dot. Dot, 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 dot. You want to make sure your dots are getting smaller. So don't press too hard on the dots after the first one, because you definitely want them. A light touch is very helpful here. Okay. One of the things people sometimes are concerned about when they're just starting doing this is that all their dots don't look the same and all of their centering doesn't look the same. And the truth is that's true. And I know for any of the designs that I've even looked at, that's often the case. What happens when it gets fired is the overall effect is what comes through for you. And it will not be noticeable. I'm going to give you one of those trust me on that one, but really I mean it. You'll have to trust me on that one. Now, I'm a big fan of double dotting because I think it can give the design a lot of complexity, but I will also tell you that not double dotting can have a kind of a very delicate look. So it's always optional to add the dot in the middle, particularly on this one, which is kind of a lacy design. But what I'm going to do now is add some double dots to my blue dots. So we already added the dark blue into the middle. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to leave the dark blue circle, these alone, but this light blue again, I'm going to take my tip number 3 and some dark blue, and I'm just going to put a little dot in the middle of each of these light blues. Okay, this is a light touch. So you don't really want to tap it down too hard. Just touch it enough to let the paint fall off your tip onto your dot. Very light, because you don't want a lot of paint on here. Okay. Okay, so that double dotting looks cool. And we're going to do the opposite then with the next one, which was going to go up a size to tip 4. I'm going to wait because I realize sometimes I go too fast and I do not want to do that. All right, so we've added that double dot of blue. All right, so you guys can let me know when you're done with that. Now, if you're doing this on the mug, sometimes the spacing that you have is going to be different than the spacing I have. So I'm noticing, I'm looking at mine, and I'm actually comparing it even to the other plates that I've done. And this one is what I will call airier. I can tell because I'm further up, closer to the rim with this than I was in the past. So if you're doing it and you're also airy, and you're doing it on the mug, you might find that you run out of space at the top or the bottom. The answer to that is that's not a big deal. I mean, obviously you can't, this is going to be brilliant. You can't put glaze where there isn't a plate or a mug. So just go off the edge. It's fine. In fact, I think even the example one that I have, I did that on. Okay, so now we're going to use tip 4 with the light blue, and we're going to put a nice light dot in the middle of these dark blue dots, the big ones. Okay. Add a little bit of life to this puppy. It's not a puppy. You get the point? All right. The trick is to just keep your eye on the dots while you're turning and doing it, so you don't kind of go off and do the other ones. But the other ones I tend to leave solid, but if you want to, you can certainly double dot them. The other thing that we can do then for double dotting is on the green, we're going to jump down to the size 3 tip again, and we're going to put a little dot of dark green in the middle of those light green dots. All right. Just a light touch. With the dark green. All right, that'll look really nice when it fires. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same. I'm going to also put a dark green dot, but using the number 1 tip. I'm waiting. Sorry. I tend to go on as I'm talking, but I know I want to wait for you guys. So give me a thumbs up when you're ready. All right, we good? All right, so we're going to use that darker green with the number 1, the smallest tip, and we're just going to put a little tiny dot of the darker green on the center of the bridge. So just on that one in the center, not all of them, just the one, the bigger one at the top. Tiny, tiny dot of darker green. Now, again, if you wanted to, you could do this for the one just in the center like I'm doing and the 2 on the sides of it, or you could do it for all of them. I mean, I always want to be clear that this is a design, and if you see it differently than I see it, then you should do it the way that makes you happy. So if you want to, you can definitely add that center dot, that extra dot to more than just the tip. All right, and then the last thing that we're going to do, not the last thing, the second to last thing we're going to do is we're going to add another thing of dots to just the one side here, okay? And we're going to do that with the darker purple. So that's the one that we had double dotted here. And we're going to do that with tip number 3, all right? Now, for someone like me, this is a great chance for me to show you something where I am, let me point. So I'm coming up on the slope here where my rim starts. So I don't know if you can tell, I kind of picked up my plate. Oh yeah, there we go. So you can see that I've picked up the plate so that where I'm dotting is perpendicular to the table. Oops, I need more. Did not have enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and I'm gonna basically unless you have a ton of paint on there, if you're using a bigger dot than I am, it should dry pretty quickly. So you don't have to worry about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops, I ran out. If you run out, usually I will switch to a slightly smaller tip so I don't end up with too big of a dot. Because I've done this a lot, this one's really slopey. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep running out on this tip. 4, 5. All right. I sometimes will just use pressure, the amount of pressure that I apply to control the size of the dot than just the tip. But it's going to vary based on how you dot. It's one of the things that kind of makes it more fun to do it in person is I can see how everybody dots. And then the last thing we can do with tip number 1 is just go back to that light blue, the first color, and just add a tiny, tiny dot in the center. Okay? And that's the basics of this design. So it has a couple for, this is meant to be a beginner plate, so I wanted to teach you a bunch of different techniques with it. So the center, and then doing dots around the center, then triangulating, okay, makes a great design. And then making a line of dots, dot, 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 like we have here, dot, 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 and then even up into this green, going around the green with the small dots in either a round or a teardrop shape, and then making the bridge across the top. And then the last thing that I think is a cool technique is the coming down on one side. Wait till you see that fired. It looks so cool. I call it the pinwheel. And you can add more of them. I mean, I stopped with the purples, but you can go back and add another color in, and it always looks really great. So at this point, you could, like I said, you could add more design to the rim of this if you wanted to. I mean, if you look at the one that I did originally, I didn't. I only have the design in the center. Doesn't make it right. It just means that's how I did it. But you can do, you can do all sorts of things to the rim. And I do hope that you will experiment. I certainly will know if you did, because I'll see them when you bring them in to fire them. Does anybody have any questions? Or anything they want me to go over again? If you are going to do 2, and you need to be reminded of anything, you can this is going to get posted immediately, and you'll be able to watch it right from our Facebook page again and repeat the design. So let me see if I have any more comments. Anybody has any questions? Really want you to feel comfortable to add some of your own touches to this. So, for example, I know I mentioned this before, but I can just go out. I can't remember which one I was thinking of doing. I know I was going to put something above the green, because I often will do that. If the purples are coming out all the way to the rim, I'm going to work in the space above the green. And we can do that with the blue or the purples. You can do it with the green as well. I just think that the changing up of the colors can look good, but then again, so can monochrome. So, let's see. I am going to do that. I'm going to take the dark green and the number 8, all right? And I'm going to put a dot right in the middle of the rim above each of those green lines, if you will. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. You guys are encouraging me to go outside my original design, because there's nothing, it doesn't really matter. Now, for you guys who are working on black, those of you who are working on black plates, you might want to pick a lighter color. But if you didn't already and you wished you had, you can, when this dries up a little bit, just double dot it with a lighter color, and it'll pop just fine. And then you can go around this with some dots. You could do just the half, the halves. I can make a sentence out of this. One side, so if I take the lighter green and I start out here and I just go dot, 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 dot on one side, I can then even switch over, say, to the light blue. If I feel like adding something a little different, and just do it again, dot, dot. All right. So right there is a cute little simple design for the rim. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See if anybody has any questions. I don't know late, so I have to rewatch it. But yeah, Stephanie, you're right. I spread out this. I tend to spread out on the plate, so definitely do it tighter when you're doing it on your mug. So, because it's good for the plate, but on the mug you want to do things closer together. Whoops. So green, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm actually going to go around and do all my greens. I usually do all of one color at the same time. And now I know why. Because it comes out better. I don't lose track of what I'm doing. It's more consistent. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to add the blues back in. Whoops. I'm going to start. And remember, always work from your best side. So, because I'm left-handed, I'm working only on the left. And I just turn my plate around, so I'm always painting on the left. If you're right-handed, you probably want to turn your plate around so you're always working on the right. All right. Oops, that's everything. All right. Any questions? Other questions? Yeah, I like how that was me just seeing it on the camera for the first time. It looks so different on camera than it does, you know, for me looking at it from an angle. So it looks, I really like it. And I like how full, you know, it's a combination of airy and full. And again, doing the matching mug, I would definitely make it, my inside design, a little bit tighter. So if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to leave you guys to finish up. And that way we can get this posted for those of you who, you know, either popped in late or just want to do it from the saved video.